Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast. We got Sean tonight. I'm Nick. How we doing, Sean?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Not too bad. Like we said last week, Harrison, cashed in his PTO for this week. So,
Mm,
you know, maybe we'll let him back next week. We'll think about it, but
maybe.
we'll
Depends
see.
on how tonight goes.
He did send us that awesome Instagram video of him walking into Disney with the Edwin Diaz music in the bag. It was
Hmm.
pretty clutch, but
Pretty nice.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was
pretty
pretty
nice.
awesome. Before we get going, just follow us on Facebook, interact with us any way you can. Come on and chat with us during the show. It would be great to hear from you all. So, leading off tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about the Little League World Series and the Red Sox and Orioles interaction with the Little Leaguers in Williamsport. Um, I love this. Like, if I was ever a big leaguer, I mean, just the impact that I have on kids as an educator, like, I would love the opportunity to make such an impact on the younger generation, especially like baseball like that. I mean, like, I
Yeah.
love baseball so much to make that impact on kids. Like, I mean, middle of the game, these guys get off the bus and just everything stops. Like, I mean, it's so cool to walk out and just have baseballs flying in your face with a permanent marker. Like, sign this, sign that. Like, it
Yeah.
must
I
be
mean,
such
and,
an awesome feeling.
and it's cool too because it's like baseball is also the sport where it's like these guys are all big leaguers, but they all played baseball at that age. Like they
Right,
all did. Like baseball is not a sport you pick up in high school.
right,
There's guys in the NFL that like didn't really play organized football until high school, this, that, and the other. Like
right.
baseball, man, like you start baseball, t-ball when you're 4 or 5 or whatever, and then you just fall in love with it. And then so these guys getting off the bus, whether they're Latin American, American, like what, like they all played baseball at that age. So like they
Yeah,
realize and recognize how cool it is and how blessed they are to be in that position. And I just think the whole thing's a cool idea.
yeah,
That Major League Baseball does, along with ESPN and all that stuff. Like I just think and it was cool. I mean, you could see it on the kids' faces.
yeah.
Like you could see it on the kid. It was awesome.
And it's such a universal language. I mean, you got
Oh
kids from
yeah, right.
Japan, you got kids from
Uh-huh.
Chinese Taipei, you got,
Doesn't
kids
matter.
from the Caribbean, like, and think
Mm-hmm.
about it, like the impact that Xander Bogaerts has on just the Caribbean alone by himself, let alone the other Dominican players. And I mean, Xander's from Aruba, which is close to Curacao, and like all of these
Mm-hmm.
other islands, and like it's really cool that they've actually like met their idol and stuff. Like I love that impact. It's really
Oh,
cool.
I agree. I agree.
Um, but and then to have them like slide down the hill on the cardboard, like
Adley Rushman. Yeah.
Dude, Ali Rushman. Did you see Alex Cora? Dude,
No, I didn't. Cora went down
Alex
on it too.
Cora, Alex Cora went full send, dude. He went
Mm,
full head first. Dude, the cardboard didn't go anywhere, and he just went head first all the way down the hill, dude. It was
I love
awesome.
Cora,
Yeah,
and
it was cool.
I will admit that I'm the biggest Cora apologist. So even when Harrison sits here and like says Cora's not doing a good, like I will make every excuse in the book for Alex Cora. I love that man.
Yeah.
But I'll have to look that video up. I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Like he started like the first 5 feet on the cardboard, and then the cardboard stuck, but he just kept going. But yeah, it's really cool. And then having them like sit in the bleachers with the kids while they're watching the
Yep.
games, like I mean,
Yep.
there's nothing like it.
Just so it's
Um,
awesome.
yeah,
It's a really cool thing that they've started to do the past few years. I love it.
yeah, absolutely. And like I love that. I mean, I think the Field of Dreams game that they had last week was, really cool. But I think honestly, like this takes the cake for me. Like the Field of Dreams game is great because of the nostalgia of it, and like I get that aspect of it. But as far as making an impact on the baseball community, and not even just MLB, but just baseball community as a whole, I think it's an amazing thing that they do, and probably the best event that they've put together in quite some time. Like, and it's been
Oh, I fully agree.
four years, maybe. It's been 3 or 4 years
I was gonna
running, right?
I was
Maybe
gonna
it'll be
say
5.
3, but it could be.
Mhm. Yeah,
It could be.
and
It's
then
around
they
3, 4,
announced
5. It was around there.
Yeah, and then they announced next year's already. It's Nationals and Phillies for next year. So
Oh,
the
good.
Phillies are going to pull quite a bit, being a Philadelphia
Oh,
team or a
well,
Pennsylvania team.
sure.
But yeah, it's gonna be a cool event again. But all right, so let's we can talk a little bit about the teams here. I know Sean, you said you've been watching it periodically here a little bit, but
Yep.
this team, there's a couple teams that I have looked out here. Ben says must not have been Manfred's idea. um, but yeah, Hawaii. This team is like grown ass men. I mean, they're 6'2",
Mm.
buck 85, throwing 72 miles an hour. They're just different than the other teams out there right now, which is crazy.
They would be they're your favorites to win.
I think Hawaii is, and that's with the international pool too. Granted, I've heard Mexico is pretty good. Canada is actually really decent, but I think Hawaii ends up pulling this out. But Canada and Mexico play tonight. They're both 2-0, so that would be an interesting matchup.
Japan lost in extras today.
Did they?
Yeah.
So
Nicaragua, I think.
Are they? And they're out then. Because
I think,
Canada beat them, and then
yeah,
wow, that's crazy. Japan's only lost in the opening round twice in their Little League career. Both are to Canada.
Is that right?
Yeah, both were to Canada. But so that's pretty interesting. But Tennessee is also another 2-0 team that I don't think they're quite on the level as Hawaii, but I mean to get through the Southeast. I mean, you're going to play some pretty good teams to come into Williamsport. So I think
you are.
There'll be a team to watch too here. But yeah, so I think Hawaii is my favorite. Out of the international teams, I'll probably, I'll just kind of straddle the fence like Sean usually does, and I'll just wait until this Canada. I'll just wait till this Canada Mexico's game's over and then make a call. But yeah. Goodness. All right, so let's get to the big league game that night in Williamsport. I mean, fairly decent game. The Orioles come out fire and they scored 2 in the top of the first, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, this is going to be a long night. Like, here we go, settle in. But Pivetta settled down. Red Sox got a run. I missed how they got the run, but I looked up and it was 2-1 and was like, all right, cool, good for them. Stayed that way until Franchi Cordero up from AAA comes in and hits an oppo dinger. Place goes nuts. So it's 2-2. In the bottom of the 7th was when he did that, I think. 7th or 8th?
Bottom of the top of the 8th.
Top of the 8th, sorry, yeah, right there away. And then Schreiber comes in, walks a couple. And I mean, he's been our one bright spot in the bullpen this year.
He's gassed. He's gassed, man.
He is gassed for sure.
And it's to kind of be a smartass, but to kind of try to answer all the why do we see Brazier all the time questions. That's why. Because if you don't, you're gassing guys like Schreiber. And he was, dude. You could see it. You could see from the first batter when he came out, absolutely gassed, arms tired, doesn't have it. And a guy like him needs to have that electricity to him, and he just didn't have it.
Yeah, when that slider doesn't have the bite that it usually does, you can tell. It just kind of just floats in there.
It floats. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And then Jorge Mateo rips that bases loaded double down the line, busts it wide open, makes it 5-2, and we lose again. But I mean, at this point, like, I'm on the Orioles bandwagon, man. I hope they come up, and I am fully in on them. They have great young talent. They're going to be a team to they're going to be there year after year from now on. They're a couple pieces away from really competing. Yeah,
I think so. Obviously Rushman's a real deal. There's no doubt about that. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And I think the manager's the right guy too. I mean, he for sure is going to get manager of the year votes now with what he did, but we were even saying it back in May and June. I mean, for a team that coming in was projected to win maybe 50, 52 games. I mean, this team's 2.5 games out of the wild card spot right now. I don't see it happening. I think like with Seattle, Tampa, Toronto, with what they have schedule wise coming up, I think they have favorable schedules in September. And I do think they are the 3 better teams of that kind of cluster. So I would expect those 3 to come out of it. But the fact that on August 22nd, we're even talking about Baltimore being 2.5 games out of the wildcard spot is incredible. It's incredible. Yeah. And, we're talking about Cedric Mullins, talking about Hayes, talk about Adley Rutschman. I mean, these are young – Mountcastle, Jesus. These are like young guys that are just really, really, really good. Really, really good. Yeah. And it's a shame. I mean, I know they kind of when they traded away Mancini, it was kind of like a waving a white flag on the season kind of. But I mean, imagine what this lineup next year would look like with Mancini in the middle of it.
Yeah. Do you know what also that everyone's forgetting about? They're missing their Cy Young candidate this year.
Yeah, John
Sean
Means. Yeah,
Means not being in is a huge loss for the Orioles at this
yeah,
point. Will they be able to
true.
keep that talent? I mean, Ben makes a good point. I mean,
Let's
they're
see
all
what
young, right? They're
contract
going to
they're
be
in.
under rookie contract for, I mean, at least a few of them are. I mean, Mullins has been up for a few years. Mountcastle's been up for a few years. Austin Hayes, 2 or 3 years. So, I mean, they got probably like a 3-year window, I would say, where they could.
Well, so Mullins, the thing with Mullins is Mullins has 2023, 24, and 25. So his age 28, 29, and 30 season are all arbitration seasons.
Okay.
So he doesn't hit UFA until 2026. But he's going to have to deal with they're going to have to deal with the arbitration. So he signed this year 1 year for like 700, what did it say? 700 and let's call it 717,000.
You have him for less than $1 million a year?
No, well, it's only for this year.
I know, but
because he's
still, Cedric
yeah,
Mullins was an all-star last year. That's crazy.
Yeah, 700 well 716 500. So it's let's round up to 717. Yeah. I mean he'll get up there. I mean he'll get up.
Yeah.
But even still, you can get Cedric Mullins for $2 million.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
what are we talking about here?
Yeah. Crazy.
So they do the young players, I think, with the way baseball with the contracts and all that stuff works too, like it helps the players like like an Orioles, right? Where it's like these younger players that are not eligible to go out to become UFAs, where they totally are going to fall off and be outbid. Like the arbitration, if they can come to, hey, this is 1 year, 2 year with what we think you're worth, and the player accepts those terms, like they can get guys like a Mountcastle and guys like Mullins and all that for, I don't want to say cheap, but for what the Orioles can afford them for. And you just have to kind of get it done when they're young, because when Cedric Mullins hits that UFA in 2026, he's gone.
Yeah.
Unless he gets hurt, because he keeps playing like this, he's gone.
And I think it's on the front office to be like, hey, like we want to build a winning culture. We want to keep you guys together. You're a great young core. Like, let's work together. Let's get this done. And I mean, Randy's right. Baltimore is thirsty for the Orioles to win. I mean, they are pulling for these guys hard, and they have a beautiful ballpark. They have the revenue. They'll spend when they need to, but they just haven't the last few years, because why try to spend when you have the Yankees and Red Sox and Rays always there, always taking the cake without any real talent behind them? Now that they got the young kids there with some base talent, they feel like they could probably go out this offseason, make a couple moves, keep your young kids. You get a couple arms, and that Orioles team is decent.
Yeah, I mean, if I was an Orioles fan, I would try and be as patient as I can be. I think they have the right guy, Mike Elias as GM, right? I mean, he came up, he was a scout for St. Louis, went to Houston in 2011, 2012. He's the one that really, within the Houston organization, got credit for the Carlos Correa draft pick. So seems to understand, like, was a scout, knows how to look up, evaluate, view talent. Certainly was in a place in Houston and Milwaukee where they can groom talent. I mean, these are teams that have had some really good young players come up and impact the big leagues. Like, I think you have the right guy in the right spot. Again, with baseball, it's all going to come down to how much is your owner going to spend. Like, is your owner going to spend the money? There's only so much the GM can do if the owner's not going to spend the money.
Right.
And but I would try to be as patient as possible, because I think he's a guy that can identify young talent, which he certainly has in the Mountcastles and the Trey Mancinis and the Cedric Mullins and the Adley Rushmans and the John Means. I mean, this is a team that's really good young players. And he's been there since 2017, did I see here? 2019. So he's been there for two-ish, a little more than 2 years. So I don't know. I think they have the right guy. I'd try and be as patient as I can. It's all going to come down to the owner. But I'm hoping, until those guys kind of are up on their contracts, I'm all in on Baltimore the next couple of years.
Yeah,
do it.
Absolutely.
I'm with you. Surround them with talent, really fortify the lineup, fortify the rotation. let's see if we can't make a move here.
Yeah.
Mateo does have pop.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a cannon at shortstop too.
Pop. Yeah.
So I mean, they're in great shape. It's going to be interesting to see them, definitely. Let's.
I mean, and that's
go ahead.
just real quick. I mean, that's the thing. We talk about the next 3 years, let's say, right, through 2025. The Yankees are poised to be the Yankees and win the 90-plus games. I mean, they're talented. They got some of these guys locked up. Who knows about Judge? That's obviously going to be a big storyline at the end of the season to indicate that. But the Sox have a good farm system. Sox have some young players that the front office really teams to like, and the Marcelo Mayers and guys like that. That, the Sox are going to put talent on the field. Whether or not they can surround the talent remains to be seen.
Right.
Tampa Bay always gets it done. Toronto's really young. Toronto has some guys locked up for quite a while, and Toronto's lineup is going to be good for the foreseeable future. And it was always the Orioles. It was always the Orioles that was looked at as like, well, that's going to be the team in the AL East that everyone beats up on, and then the other four will figure it out.
Yep.
Now, I mean, with what Baltimore's showing this year, I mean, this could be a team next year where the team that finishes 5th in the division is a handful of games over 500 and doesn't even sniff a playoff spot.
It's crazy.
Which would be crazy.
Let's just expand the playoffs again then. Or just put the whole AL East into the AL playoffs.
No, I'm not saying that.
No,
I'm just
no,
saying that would be a wild. I mean, that would be a season where we talk about to win that division and with the way the baseball schedule works, you play your division 18, 19 times. You play these guys. If you win that division, you've earned it.
Dude, imagine if they, yeah. Oh, 1,000% I agree. Imagine if they did it like hockey, right? You have your divisions, but then your top 8 are your top 8.
The playoffs you're talking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so you could logistically have your top 5 be AL East teams, and then 3 other teams in the AL make the if they did it like hockey,
I don't love the way hockey does it.
Well, I don't necessarily either, but the top 8 teams make the playoffs. I mean, records don't lie.
Right. I mean, I get why hockey did it that way. I don't love it. I just think sometimes it's hard with hockey because it's like, you have a, Philadelphia-Pittsburgh rivalry, and then those 2 teams might meet in the first round, and that's like the best rivalry that you have on the East here, and it's one of the teams is out after the first round. Like I get that's kind of how it is, and but hockey almost set it up that way, so that's why I don't love it. But
yeah.
Randy
makes the point. He had two divisions when he was a kid. It's like, season's over. Oh, World Series. Okay, great.
Buddy, I couldn't tell you how long it took me to understand, like, when you were talking about, like, the Yastrzemski Red Sox from, like, 69, right, or whatever. And then they're like, oh, like, the Red Sox won the pennant. But it's like, I'm like, they didn't make it out of the playoffs. But, like, there was no playoffs. It was just, you just won. Right. You just won the pennant, and then you just went to the World Series. That's just how it was. I didn't my brain couldn't comprehend that that's how it worked.
Right. Oh man.
I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Crazy. All right, let's move on to some of the weekly matchups we had last week. Had some interesting. Let's just talk about the Mets. We'll get them out of the way since they're your baby. I mean, two pretty big series for them: Braves, Phillies, playoff implications there. Brave series, was that 3 games or 4?
I think it was 3. It was 4 in New York, and I think it was 3 down in Atlanta.
Okay.
I'll have to double check now, but that's what I think it was.
The SOS podcast, they all got together and went to the Braves. So they visited Morgan down in Atlanta.
Oh, is that right?
They went to the DeGrom start, and then he messaged us, and he goes, "Listen, watching DeGrom on TV does not do this guy justice."
I mean, we've known that.
Right, but still, just disgusting. Being completely filthy is just
he's unhittable.
Crazy.
I mean, he's unhittable. Dude, I was where was I Saturday? I can't remember where I was. Sarah was down in New Jersey, so I was kind of just trying to keep myself. I think I went somewhere for lunch.
Not in Raleigh. That's all I know. But
right. Sorry. So, but I'm sitting there, and MLB Network was on TV, and they flashed like a graphic, and they were talking about Scherzer and DeGrom, And obviously, they both missed a decent amount of time. Obviously, DeGrom more than Scherzer. But since they've both been back, they were like graphic and statted their numbers. And DeGrom had 2 starts, I think it said, up until that point, because this was his 3rd start back, right, when he was in Atlanta.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So it was before the Atlanta start. So I think 2 starts. And he had 16.2 or 15.2, I think is what it was, 15.2 innings. He had 18 strikeouts. He had 1 walk, and he had an opponent batting average of 108. Yes. And we're talking like this is major league. This is not spring training. I mean, these are major league lineups that are in August. Like, they're in midseason form. I mean, this is not a major league lineup that was just like, this is legitimate hitter. And he's 108 batting average, 1 walk, 18 Ks. And he I mean, Randy said he hasn't missed a beat from last year, and that is spot on. He is dominant. The swing and miss stuff is there.
Yeah.
The setting you up from one at bat to the next is there. Like, his brain is midseason form when it comes to setting you up, but then his stuff is midseason form when it comes to just blowing by you. And it's like, how do you beat a guy like that?
It is Bob Gibson, let's move the mound back a foot type of stuff.
Yeah.
Like legit. I mean, it's we've mentioned this past couple weeks, really, is like, I can't even imagine what his numbers would look like if he was healthy, even more healthy than, like, even just one full season out of him, like, it's impressive to watch. Like, this is a guy that we might be looking at when his Hall of Fame stuff comes around and be treated like kind of like Sandy Koufax, where, like, yeah, he doesn't have the innings pitched. He doesn't necessarily have, doesn't necessarily have like the cumulative stats, but you're going to be like, listen, this guy was the best pitcher of this generation, hands down. It's not even a contest. And you're going to have those naysayers be like, oh, he doesn't belong in the Hall. He doesn't, but granted, he needs more innings under his belt. He does, before I can say he's Hall of Fame eligible. But his stuff is there. It's ready. I think.
Yeah, I mean,
it's more inning.
It's hard. It's hard to, because in any sport, and I've always been like a bigger advocate for like a smaller Hall of Fame in whatever sport we're talking about, right? Like, it's. And Harrison uses the term the Hall of Very Good and all that, which I mean, I tend to agree with.
Right.
But even on like a broader level, like, to me, Hall of Famers are guys that throughout eras and throughout like generations are consistently remembered as like people that were game wreckers or people that you needed to game plan against. I don't care when you played or whom you played against or anything like that. Like, and Jacob deGrom is that guy.
Yeah.
Like, Jacob deGrom is that guy now. I don't care about the innings pitch. I don't care about the injuries. Yeah, it hurts the pedigree to a sense. But anybody that has watched this guy pitch 9 innings of baseball, just a 9-inning stretch, he is the most dominant force that this game has right now. And it's not close. And we have some nasty pitches in this game, and it's not close.
Yeah. No one's ever seen what Jacob deGrom is doing. And 99 Pedro, we always come back to that comparison. And I would argue that deGrom is almost more overbearing. Like, deGrom's like in your face with it. He's like 102, and then I'm going to bust you off with a 3-foot breaking slider that's, thrown at 95 miles an hour. Like, good luck, buddy.
Yeah, I think the pure stuff, it's hard to argue. I mean, I was 9 years old when 99 Pedro was around, so, like, the experiencing of it, like, I was still a little bit young for that, but, like, going back and rewatching it, the thing about 99 Pedro is, like, that dude had, like, 320 Ks that year, which is just disgusting.
Yeah.
So, like, we're talking steroid era against guys that were literally using steroids to build themselves up to hit the ball 600 feet, and he had 320 Ks. So, I don't know. Like, to me, that's always going to be the one you go back to. It's just like, I don't know if anyone will reach that, but the pure stuff that deGrom has is there. It's 1A, 1B.
Yeah. I mean, Pedro's stuff was, it was dominant, but he had he had the best changeup I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
yes,
we're never ever going to see a changeup like Pedro's ever again. No one has his jacked up fingers that can throw a changeup like Pedro can and keep the arm speed and take 15 miles per hour off the pitch. Like
100%.
Like that's why Pedro had the dominant stuff, because he'd drop a 79-mile-an-hour changeup on your ass and then gas you up with 96, 97. Like, I mean, yeah. I mean, I get it. Like, pitching is, it's apples and oranges in some cases. You got guys out there like Jamie Moyer pitching until they're 43, throwing 83 miles an hour, still able to get people out. And then you got Jacob deGrom on this hand throwing 108 and with a 98-mile-an-hour slider. Like, that's the beauty of baseball. Like, it is.
And we could spend 2 hours doing a deGrom versus 99 Pedro comparison. I mean, I love this shit. But like Pedro, 99 Pedro, to your point, with the devastating changeup, and then gas you at 96, 97, and it had movement on it, and it was, and especially that year in 99, he could paint it inside, outside, didn't matter. But back at that point, we didn't have just the everyday routine, every guy coming out of the pen, every guy throws 100.
Right.
But like 97, 98, 99 that Pedro was pumping back in 99 was an impressive feat, because he was somebody that was doing that every 5 days. And yeah, you had guys that could get up there, sure, but it wasn't like a consistent thing. Nowadays, it is a consistent thing, starters and bullpen guys alike, and yet deGrom still has the 101, 102 that seems to have that like extra life on it.
Yeah.
Like we have guys in this league that have been hitting 98, 99 for 8 years and are still blown away by deGrom. He has his fastball just has that life on it. So I don't know, man. I just think like the pure watching him pitch every 5 days is an absolute must tune in, must watch. And to me, that puts you on a path to the Hall of Fame more than humping some numbers and telling me how many innings he pitched. Like, I get it. It's important. I totally get that. But like every sport, numbers only tell a little bit of the story. Like, you got to watch it. Turn on the TV or turn on the iPad or whatever and watch this guy pitch, and then come back and tell me he's not the most dominant force, because he is.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to give him a case for not the Hall. I'm just saying that.
I know.
I mean, he has been hurt so much that it is going to be a detriment to him. I mean, if he just goes on the rest of his career pitching half a season at this dominant rate, he's gonna get in. It is what it is. But anyways, yeah, must see TV. That guy's disgusting. Max Scherzer tonight passes Pedro in all-time strikeouts. That guy's just been doing it forever. Let's move on. I mean, Max Scherzer, we all know him, like, just as filthy. I mean, we knew it going in. deGrom and him 1-2 in mid-season form is just not. I mean,
dude, this is the time of year, the late August, September into the postseason. These are the games. These are the time of year the Mets went out and paid Scherzer all that money for.
Oh, 1,000%.
It wasn't for May and June, right? It wasn't for May and June. It was like, this guy's been with multiple teams. He's done it. He knows how to win in the postseason. He's got that dog in him, as Barstool likes to say, right? Like, he's just the guy that, like, when the playoffs come around in the game and you need to have it and the game matters, if I'm an opponent, I don't want to see Scherzer walking that mound. Don't care. Don't want it. So, he's 3-0 Yankees right now. He doesn't have his stuff. You can tell Scherzer has his stuff when balls are getting hit on the ground, and there's a lot of balls getting hit in the air today. So he doesn't have his stuff. It is what it is.
Yeah. But I still don't want to see deGrom and Scherzer in a 5-game series. No thanks.
Oh, well, that's the biggest advantage that they have, and that's why it's like, you know what? Get the shitty start out now, dead arm, whatever you want to call it. But you get me these two guys healthy in October, and I mean, you have to face each of them twice in a 5-game series. It's no shot.
Yeah.
No shot.
Yeah. I mean, even if you get to Scherzer or deGrom for one game, you're just going to get him in Game 5 again, and you're not going to get the same guy.
After you have to go through Chris Bassett, who's actually been really good this year.
Right. Yeah, I agree too.
Or Ty Walker, who's actually been really good up until the past month. But
he's out.
Ty Walker. He's starting tomorrow.
He's back?
Yeah, he's back tomorrow.
Oh, well, I thought he was out for. I
No,
thought
he's
the
back
initial
tomorrow.
report said it was. Well,
The
that's
initial
good
report,
news
yeah,
for them.
yeah,
That
yeah.
is
He
good
should be
news
back
for them.
tomorrow.
All right. Before we move on from the Mets, Mark Canha yesterday,
Yeah,
game
hell of a
tying
game.
home run in the top of the seventh, and then go ahead home run top of the eighth on the way to a Mets victory against the Phillies. Crazy. I mean, he was an underrated signing. Not many people knew who Mark Canha was because, again, he was hidden in Oakland. But
But I think also I'll be a little bit fair. Mark Canha was signed very early. And the Mets went out and identified him as a guy they want early, and they went and signed him. And then we didn't the whole off season plays out the way that it did. I just think he maybe got lost more
yeah,
than anything else. He was underrated for sure, but I think people when it was signed, I think people looked at him like that. He's a great. Judge just went, oh, warning track, hit the gym, Judge. I think initially when it happened, but it was just so early, and then it just all the other signings happened.
yeah,
I think people kind of just got lost on Mark Canha. And now, to be fair, he was singling people to death for the first half of the year, but the power numbers weren't really there. Not that he's like a uber power hitter, but he
right.
wasn't necessarily hitting a ton of doubles, wasn't hitting a lot of home runs. It was more just like he'd give you a tough at bat and he'd hit you with a single. And now he's starting to get that power stroke going. Did you see the 2 home runs?
Oh yeah, tanked.
The first one, dude, he had to pull his hands all the way in to still be able to get it up over the fence. Impressive. The second one was absolutely mashed off David Robertson.
Up and in,
absolutely mashed. Yeah. So, that's just, the lineup is going to need a little bit of pop, and if you can get a little extra thing out of him, even better.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to the Yankees landslide here, let's talk about the Padres real quick. They have had a rough go of it since the trade deadline, and all the news with Tatis comes down and all of that stuff. They played the Miami Marlins and the Washington Nationals this week, and they scraped together 2 wins. I mean, I know the answer to this, but does the Tatis thing over their heads affect their morale in the locker room, even though he's not there?
I think so. I think it has to, right? I think these guys are human.
Yeah.
They see the media, even though they don't want to admit that they see the media. They hear what's being said. They heard the expectations that were there for them. And then they go out and the organization makes a move for Soto, and yet maybe the GM and the front office knew about Tatis, but none of us knew about it. I doubt the players in the locker room knew about it. So here they are going, oh my God, we just made a move for Soto. Tatis is coming back. We're going to be nasty. We're going to run away with this thing. We're going to catch the Dodgers. And then Soto comes, and then 24 hours, 48 hours later, Tatis news drops. It's just a lot. It's almost like a soap opera for this
sure.
for the locker room. I just feel bad for the players
and the fans, to be honest.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, though, the players got to play, and they're just they're not playing. You go out. Hader's got a 26 ERA since being there, or something crazy like that.
Crazy. Yeah.
He's been awful.
The Brewers had to have known that.
Known what?
It seemed like they just were like, okay, yeah, here's Josh Hader. After he had that 40 scoreless inning streak, maybe it's them just selling high and lucking out. I don't know.
Probably.
Just crazy to me how they were just like it's just all gone downhill since that deal for him too. But man, crazy. All right. So yes, the Yankees are winning tonight. However, they have lost more games. They've lost, I think it was 36 games in the last 48 than they had the rest of the entire beginning of the season.
Yeah, right.
They've lost more this month and a half than they did the entire first 3 months of the season. And we'll give Sean credit where it's due. He said as soon as the home runs dry up, so does the Yankees wins. And man, you weren't kidding. Like we said, 46% of their runs are scored by home run. Yeah. And when they're not there, Judge went a week and a half without a home run. His pace went, I don't know how his pace is still 61. to be completely honest. But they just released
Is that what
today.
it's still at?
That's what they said. It was at 66. Now it's down to 61. But I don't know how they must measure that home runs per at bat, right? That's what I'm
So
guessing.
I would assume tonight made 47.
Yeah.
So that's what? That's 14 away from 61.
He's got, and it's August 22nd.
August 22nd.
He's got a month and 10 days to get 14 home runs.
To get 14 home runs. So he's got to hit one every other day, essentially.
Yeah. And I mean, he'll have a couple multi-home run games in there, but yeah, I mean, yeah, especially when it's, little league distance to right field.
I could see it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, possibly, but I don't know. Anyways, back to the Yankees. Like they're not pitching, they're not hitting, they're losing ball games, and
they're losing ball games, and I feel vindicated in two ways. One being the home run thing, which I looked like an idiot with egg on my face in June and July when I kept saying that the losses are going to come, and they just kept winning 13-3. It's like, all right, this is getting ridiculous.
Right.
But I knew it was coming. Like no team can go 162 games with that kind of streak of hitting home runs. Like they're going to dry up, whether it's facing better pitching or hitting a slump or injuries. Like something was going to happen, which they were going to dry up. And their inability to really manufacture runs on a consistent basis has hurt them, and it's going to hurt them. But Aaron Boone stinks. Aaron Boone is not a good manager. He hasn't been a good manager for years. And it's great to be the manager of the Yankees when they're hitting a billion home runs and Judge and Stanton and Josh Donaldson and Anthony Rizzo and all these guys are hitting the ball out of the park. You look great. But when that stops and you overuse the same arms in the bullpen, you just completely overworked that bullpen.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't think it's unfair to say now that Garrett Cole has proven that when it matters, he's not a guy that can be counted on.
Never has in a Yankees uniform, to be honest.
I know. I agree.
Yeah.
But even now, like, it's starting to crumble before we get to the postseason. Like, it's starting to fall apart before you hit the one-game playoff or whatever. It's now falling apart. Like, when he needs to put an end to 3 losses in a row, he can't do it.
And just to put a bow on what you're saying, Alex Manoah plunked Aaron Judge completely by accident the other day. And Garrett Cole's frustration just boils over and meets Manoah out at the first baseline. And Aaron Judge is like, dude, what are you doing? Like, even Judge was like, dude, no. Like, but that's where that's the whole boiling point of him being frustrated.
But to me, like, and this, I swear to God, I'm not looking at reasons to blame Boone, but that tells me a lot about Boone, almost more about Boone than it does about Garrett Cole. Like, I don't care what sport you're talking about, head coaches in football, hockey, basketball, managers in baseball, right? Like, the team takes on the personality of their coach. I know that they're grown men, but like, that's how it works when you're in a locker room. Like it's a follow the leader mentality. Not to say you're just going to, jump off a bridge if a guy jumps off a bridge, but it's, if he brings this nervous energy, this stressful energy into the locker room every day because they can't stop the bleeding, then the players pick up on that. And that is going to resonate and come out through the players. And that's what I saw when I saw Garrett Cole reacting the way he did to Alek Manoah hitting Judge. I don't think it was, the time in the game and what was happening, there's no way he's hitting Judge on purpose. It's a two-seamer that got away from him. It happens.
Right.
It happens.
Yeah.
But to me, like, that tells me, like, that that Boone is outwardly stressfully handling himself in the locker room, which is not a leader.
And the post-game podium. He can't keep it together in a post-game interview anymore.
Was that same game?
Yeah, I think so. He was like pounding his fists, like trying, like, it's not going to do anything, buddy. Everybody already has the preconceived notions of how you are as a manager. It's just now.
And I don't get, and I don't necessarily have a problem with a manager doing what he's doing, like going through the media to get a message to his players. Like, Bruce Cassidy with the Bruins did it for a long time, and he did it actually quite well. I thought the players maybe got tired of it towards the end, but I thought he did a nice job. Like, he would pick his time and he would do it at the right time and use his words carefully and not mention players' names, but he would get a message to the media. But Boone's never really been that guy. So if you're known, if you're not known as the guy to go through the media, and then all of a sudden you go through the media, that now looks like you're just placing blame. That doesn't look like you're trying to motivate the guys.
Right.
Like if that's not been your style for the past 3 years, and now all of a sudden you're doing it, you're just the guy that's throwing your team under the bus.
Yeah.
Which is obviously not the way you want to be.
And
I don't disagree with his message. I don't
Right.
disagree with his message either. The
No.
players have to play better.
Yeah.
Like the talent is there.
Mhm.
They do have the talent. They just have to play better. So I don't disagree with the message. I just, and I hate him. And I think he's terrible, so I will find ways to blame him.
Right.
But I don't think he's doing himself any favors.
I think to use our comparison of like Joe Torre falling asleep in the dugout, Aaron Boone's been able to do that the first half of the season because these guys are getting up and putting up 25 runs a game. Now that, his pitching coach is like nudging him while he's taking a nap and be like, hey, what should we do here? He's like, I don't know. Like, what's going on? Like, we're losing games. Like, I don't know how to fix this. It's kind of like he's waking up from his nap or his dream and he just doesn't know where he is, how to fix it, or where to go from there. Like, I don't know. I'm sure they'll get get on a hot streak. Judge will carry them for a little bit more. He'll come back around. He'll start hitting bombs again. But Yankees are just in a complete tailspin right now. And how many games are they still up? They're still up. They got a big cushion for sure.
Yeah, and listen, when you put all the work in and you play so well for so long at the beginning of the year and you build up that cushion, then yes, it's a great thing to have when it matters. And it's a great thing to have right now in late August when you are hitting the skid. And, it's fine. And I get that. But it's still a concerning, if I was a Yankee fan, that's still a concerning, decent stretch of games. Like, this is a good stretch of games. This isn't like, hey, we lost 10 out of 12, but we had a couple of injuries and some bad bounces, and that's going to happen. Like, this is a legitimate stretch of games, and you're not seeming to make any adjustments.
Right.
Just for reference, in 2007, the Yankees, earlier in the year, but the Yankees had a 7-game losing streak in like late April, early May of 2007. And that was the longest one that Joe Torre as a manager had in like a dozen years, which is crazy. Now, granted, he was a manager of great teams that had leaders like Derek Jeter and really great players and all that. But like, that tells me that a manager knows the pulse of his team and knows how to
right the ship.
Yeah, and let's not panic. Let's not panic. Like, I don't care if you're the Pirates. I don't care if you're the Marlins or the Yankees or the Mets. You have talented players on your team. They're all big league ball players. They're all the top 1% of 1% of us that love the game of baseball, and that's why they're playing it. 12-game, 13, 14, 15-game losing streaks happen because the manager isn't doing his job as much as the players aren't doing theirs. So, again, not letting players off the hook, but I don't think it would be fair to sit there and say that, what can the manager do? The players have to play. No, the manager has plenty that he can do. And I think that, and as much as I love Cora was to blame for some of the Red Sox major skids this year, because I think there were moves that could have been made and poor going to the bullpen at poor times and bringing in the wrong players and, maybe pinch hitting Franchy a little too many times when he was 0 for lifetime. But what are you going to do? You pick up pieces and move on. So,
yeah.
We'll see. I'm interested to see in the Yankees. I obviously not a Yankee fan, but with this lineup that they really didn't make that many adjustments to from last year, I'm interested to what happens when the postseason comes around.
Yeah, all kidding aside, moving Joey Gallo and moving Jordan Montgomery ruined possibly the chemistry of that locker room. I think they made a move just to make a move when Bader doesn't really move the needle. You lose a left-handed starter. Yes, Joey Gallo is 0 for the summer, and now he's in LA, just absolutely tearing the cover off the ball.
I can guarantee you Joey Gallo wouldn't be doing this in New York. He didn't like it in New York.
Right. No, and
it was too much for him. So the only thing he needed was a change of scenery. He could have gone to Pittsburgh and to do something different. He couldn't do New York.
Yeah. No, I mean, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the Yankees, the Cashman should have gone a while ago, but that's me. But
We'll see. Yeah,
I mean,
I think it's they win if they win 90 plus games this year and then get bounced after. I mean, they're going to get one of the two buys.
yeah.
So
Oh yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
they're moving on to the DS or whatever I don't know if they renamed the rounds, but they'll be moving on there. But if they don't get out of that round, if they're kind of one and done, if you want to call it that, I don't see how they can keep him.
No.
Cashman. I mean,
No.
he hasn't made any major adjustments, and the ones that he had made, especially we talked about the 2 moves at the deadline. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, you're messing with a chemistry that they clearly had before the deadline. I don't know why you would even. You're just making a move to make a move, try to make a splash. I just don't understand it. But
yeah, dude, I'm all in on how the National League plays out through the postseason, into the postseason, and all the way through. Absolutely enthralled. I mean, I think it doesn't take a genius to sit there and say that it's the Mets and the Dodgers are the top 2 teams. They're going to get the top 2. They're going to get the top 2 seeds. But we look at St. Louis, we look at Milwaukee, we look at Atlanta, who has proven they more than belong in the conversation.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's going to be tough for the Mets and the Dodgers they're going to be tough outs. Let's just put it that way. Would they be favored in all the series? Yeah, they'll be favored. But I think the Cardinals are going to be a tough out. I think Milwaukee would be a tough out. I think the Braves will be a tough out. I think Philadelphia, if you get there, I just don't trust their defense. But
we've talked about that.
I mean, they can score some runs. And Schwarber, like, I don't know. I just think the National League's going to be real tough. And spoiler alert, Card's going to win the NL. That wouldn't totally shock me.
No,
I'd be a little surprised just because of I just think the Dodgers are so good. But that wouldn't totally shock me.
I think
it's a really good team, man.
And it's a toss-up.
Really good team.
It's a toss-up, and I think it depends on who draws who in the rounds, like how the records, phase out, and who gets who in the first round of matchups. Like, I mean, it's not gonna. Whoever comes out of the NL is not gonna be like, oh my god, I can't believe they came out of the NL. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of good teams in that NL for sure. I mean, that race to me is gonna be. I'm gonna love that. I can't.
I agree. And to follow up with that, whoever comes out of the NL, regardless of the team, you're gonna look at it and say, "Shit, man, they earned it." Like, you're gonna have to earn it. I don't care. I don't care who it is, really. I mean, obviously, I want the Mets, but whoever comes out of the National League, you're gonna look at them and tip your hat and be like, "They fucking earned it," because it's gonna be a battle to get through them.
I'm glad you actually gave us this comment because it segues right into our players of the week. Pujols had a week. 617, 8 for 13, 3 runs, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, a 1.974 OPS. And he splits the player of the week with his teammate, Paul Goldschmidt. Of course, his name is, mentioned every other week. If it's not him, it's Arenado. But Goldschmidt was 542, 13 for 24, 7 runs, 3 homers, 11 RBIs, and a 16-13 OPS. Players of the week for the NL was split. And then for the AL, a name that we haven't heard in a while, Johnny Cueto for the White Sox, 2-0 with a .54 ERA, 16 2/3 innings pitched, and a 183 batting average against. I mean, I'm glad that he came back a little bit, but I mean, man, he's just so inconsistent. But
Cueto?
Yeah.
Hey, he had a good week. I mean, we know the ceiling or the peak or whatever we want to say. The peak of what Johnny Cueto had been. I didn't really think he still had this in him, but it's a week. I mean, it's 2 starts. I don't want him. I'm not like, oh, we got to go get Johnny Cueto.
Right.
I mean, it's a good week. It's, he's a good week. He pitched well. I'm more enthralled with the 2 Cardinals players. Mean, not only Pujols cracking him like he's 24, but he just looks so comfortable at the plate in a Cardinals uniform.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's
And
the baby blues, baby. That's all it is. It's the baby blues.
Is it 692 now or 693?
He is. Oh, I thought he was 692, but I could be off one. I think it's 692. He's got 8 to get to step. I think he's. Is it 692? Did you double check?
I'm Googling it right now.
I'm pretty sure it is because he was at 690. Then he had that 2 home run game, unless I missed one last night.
Let's see.
But yeah, he's got 8. He's got 8 to get to. He's got 692.
Yeah, so 692. Yeah.
He's got 8 to get 700. He made a statement this week that he's not coming back. So this is it. This is his last month and a half of baseball. Does he get to 700?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so?
I think he does. He looks real comfortable now. He's hitting the ball hard. Even he's putting the bat on the ball. He's not getting cheap home runs, right? I do think he gets it, but I think he's going to need help in a sense of like he's going to need every opportunity possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like there's going to have to be a stretch here where he gets I should say stays hot, not gets hot because he's hot right now, but where he kind of stays hot for a little while and he gets the pinch hit opportunities. He gets the starts here and there where he gets 3 or 4 at bats. The hard thing you have is with a guy that age, like you want him to ride it out as long as possible. I think right now, if you're the manager, if I'm the Cardinals manager, I'm giving him every opportunity possible. And if he gets a little tired and goes on a cold streak, then so be it. It wasn't meant to be. But you got to give him the opportunities. Right.
Without being a detriment to your team in the process.
Sure. And that's
are in a race. That's a huge factor. But I mean,
I think he's enough of a team. I mean, I certainly don't know the guy on a personal level, but he seems enough like a team guy. He seems, he understands the goal that the team is building towards.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think he wants to be in there. He wants to play. He wants to help the team. I think as long as he continues to be a threat in the batter's box, he's going to get the opportunities.
Absolutely.
I think the minute he becomes not a threat, he loses the opportunity. And I think he'll look himself in the mirror and say, you know what? I lost the opportunity because I wasn't playing well. Yeah. But I don't see him all of a sudden falling off a cliff in that sense.
Right.
I think he's going to swing a hot bat, and the more opportunities he gets, I do think he's going to get it, though. I guess my long answer to that is I think he's going to get 700.
Yeah. I love this comment. He thinks he gets 699. He thinks someone throws him a cookie last game of the season. I mean, I know it's the All-Star game, but look at Cal Ripken Jr. in his last All-Star game. He was just like, hey, Cal, fastball down the middle. Cal, fastball down the middle. You know what I mean? Like, do I think that's going to happen? Possibly no. Do I think Pujols gets to 700? He needs 8 in a month and a half. If they DH him every day, I mean, who else DHs for the Cardinals at this point? I mean, I don't know who else does, to be honest. Unless it's like Carlson giving him a night off in the outfield or something like that. But I mean, he might be your full-time DH at this point. With Bader going to the Yankees and taking out
Bader being gone does kind of make that a little bit more of a.
So I think Carlson's now a full-time outfielder, which moves Pujols to the DH.
I mean, they got Pujols playing first tonight, and they got Goldie at DH. So they got him in the field.
Okay, so you're gonna flip flop.
But I'm saying, in the starting lineup. I mean, he's in the starting lineup.
Right.
Yeah,
you're gonna flip flop those guys for sure. But
I mean, dude, he's 1 for 1 tonight. Like that's the thing with him. Like he feels comfortable and he's a threat in the batter's box. He's at 276. Like he's not hurting your team.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean,
absolutely not.
I think he just continues to ride it. That's why I do think he gets there. I really
do. He did move into second for the most total bases of all time. So he's behind Hank Aaron for most total bases of all time this week.
And I can tell you this. I'm trying to continue thinking positively. When he gets 700, I'm legit going to cry when he's rounding those bases.
Oh, for sure.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. I don't. I think National League MVP is wrapped up at this point. It's got to be Paul Goldschmidt, right? I mean, there's.
I really think.
I thought it was going to be Alonso, but I mean, the
Well,
way that Goldschmidt's playing right now,
right.
there's no way. There's just no way.
I mean, let's put it this way. The way that I look at it is Pete was my pick at the beginning of the year when we did the preseason, like the preview awards, whatever. Pete's the guy that I had for the National League. And I think up until the All-Star break, I think Pete would have been a fine choice. I mean, he's led all of baseball in RBIs at that point. His, on pace for RBIs, 120 something, whatever. But Goldie has just gone and taken it from him.
It's crazy.
Like he's gone and just taken it. And again, I don't think Pete's played that bad.
No.
But like I wouldn't say that Pete has lost the award. I would just say that Goldie has just gone and taken it from him. Absolutely ripped it away and taken it home. It's his.
Yeah, and he's got Player of the Week standings for the last 3 weeks straight. I mean, you just can't.
Disgusting.
Really, yeah. So our rounding third question of past week was, who is the most disappointing player this year? I mean, most people obviously answered Fernando Tatis. I mean, we talked about him a little bit, obviously. Chris Sale was also another one. I mean, kind of hard to argue with that. Yes, tough luck. Yes, all of that. But I mean, the guy legit came back from a rib injury he was weightlifting, comes back, throws a gem in his first start back, goes to Yankee Stadium, gets a line drive off his pinky, done. Then yeets off his bicycle, breaks his wrist. I mean, it's disappointing. So, I mean, Sale, Tatis, disappointing for sure. Mike Trout for me, just for always being hurt. Like, I mean, I love the guy. The guy's ultra talented, but he's at this point of his career, I feel like he's a disappointment. When we don't see Mike Trout on the field, it's disappointing.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I was thinking of it like a different way about like players that have been on the field. Yeah, like I mean, yeah, it's disappointing for Tatis and Sale and Mike Trout because he's hurt, and like yeah, it's disappointing. Like to me, and I tell you, he was my pick for the guy who was going to kind of fall off, so I'm not surprised. But Marcus Semien.
Oh, brutal.
Now he's had a little bit better of a second half of the year. I mean, he's got himself up to 19 home runs, 61 RBIs, and he's got a 234 batting average, which I wouldn't call great, but I mean, he was under 200 for a long time. So, I mean, he's playing a little bit better lately, I guess, as the team has been scoring a decent amount of runs in Texas. But for the big money they spent in the offseason with Corey Seager and with Marcus Semien, with the year he had last year in Toronto, you really kind of thought that he was going to go down to Texas and continue that, or at least most people did. I didn't, but
I didn't either. I picked him too. He was my preseason pick too.
And I think as our Texas Ranger fan, that would probably be a pretty disappointing one.
Yeah.
So that would be kind of the one that I'm looking at.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. His first half was atrocious. I mean, he was an early fantasy draft pick for me, and I dropped him as fast as I drafted him. His year was bad, but yeah. But I mean, most of the people were just on the injury bandwagon with Tatis, the suspension, and then Chris Sale. But
yeah, and that's more of like I don't disagree with us being disappointed, but that's like that. Like Tatis is like I'm dad disappointed. Like I'm disappointed in the way you acted, right? But like some of the guys, for example, Semien, like just disappointed because it was just an underwhelming season, which
Absolutely.
was just kind of unfortunate for the money that he was being paid. Like he just didn't perform.
Another injury disappointment for me, to be completely honest, was my MVP pick, which was also like kind of a long shot at Wander Franco. Franco getting hurt, and seeing what that kid could have done for a full season in Tampa would kind of disappointing. But again, like you said, like wasn't really an on-field. I mean, I think who my on-field disappointment is. I only talk about him every week, but we won't go there.
But Nick, in order to be disappointed in someone, you have to have expectations, and you don't have any expectations for him, so it's unfair to say you're disappointed.
I mean, okay, fair. I'll stay on the same team then. Xander and JD's power numbers.
Yes. Yep. I was gonna hit that a little bit too. I think the power number specifically for Xander, like the average was up for a while and he was getting himself on base and he was kind of driving in runs, but it was the power numbers. Major disappointment. I agree.
Did he just hit his 10th? I think in Williamsport. Yeah, just hit double digits, man. I think I'm with you. I think Xander ends up opting in. He's had that year where it's borderline that it would be very, very risky to go to the free agent market in this offseason, with Correa probably opting out, with Trey Turner setting the bar. You know, they're going to look at Trey Turner's numbers and they're going to look at Xander's numbers and they're going to be like, yeah, sorry, bud. You're gonna be here and Trey's going to be up here. So, I mean, yeah, I'm with you. I think he ends up opting in, which is crazy.
I mean, again, I'm the ultimate middleman Dan on the show, which is maybe not the best way to do something like this. But, like, I've been saying to Harrison since May, like, dude, just, like, let's just wait and see what happens with Xander. Like, let's just wait. Oh, he's gone. Let's just wait, because he seems to love it here. And he's been very outward about how he loves Boston. And it's the only organization he's ever played for. And he loves the front office. And they, you know, like, it's not easy. Like, I get money is money, and I get that. And I get if you're going to throw $1 billion at a guy, like, he's not going to say no, and I get all of that. Well, let's just wait and see. And see. I'm not shocked that it has played out the way that it has. I'm a little surprised at the way he's played this year power-wise. Like, I did think he would be in this lineup hitting where he is in the middle. I did think the power numbers would be up, frankly. But I'm not surprised the way the whole off-the-field thing is played out with the front office and not trading him. And not just not trading him, but telling him ahead of time, we are not trading you. Like, to me, they're not dumb.
No.
Like, Chaim Bloom is not dumb. We can disagree with some of the signings and we can disagree with some of the money that he spent. But he's not a dumb person. And Chaim Bloom is not going to let a guy like that just walk without getting anything unless he is somewhat confident that he can retain the player.
I think, honestly, like, I was guilty of it. I jumped the gun and I said that if you're not going to get anything for Xander, then you need to, you need to sign him. But I wasn't looking at the big picture, and you kind of just, like, brought me back to earth a little bit there and just be like, Bloom probably looked at the season that Bogaerts is having overall and being like, this guy's got zero leverage right now. Zero. Like, he has to come back and opt in and sign with us. It's like,
he doesn't have to. He didn't have to.
Well, he doesn't have to, but he's going to get bottom dollar on the open market, is what I'm saying. Like,
right. And Chaim's probably looking at it going, you know what? With that being said, we're not going to trade him. And if he opts out,
well, that's what I'm saying.
We have a decent chance in getting him for 10 cents on the dollar, because he's not going to be able to come back to us with Team XYZ offering him a $600 million deal.
Right.
And at that point, and with that being said, if that's how it plays out, if he still opts out and if there's still a team that blows him out of the water and he goes somewhere else, then yes, I would say Chaim takes a little bit of a hit for mismanaging it. But I can't blame him right now, because I do think the Sox are right in the middle of it when it comes to where he's going to be next year, if not leading the pack.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it plays out, but I do think he's actually played it pretty well up until this point.
Yeah, like, going back and thinking about that, like, I mean, I think that's the route he's going, right? I mean, he's had a bad season, or not a Xander-like season where he's 25, 100 RBIs.
Oh my God, get out, Vogie. Get out, Vogel snack.
Do you get it?
3-2. That is a big daddy home run right there, boys.
Love that guy.
That is big. I love him. But here's the thing, too. And I know Red Sox fans aren't going to want to hear it. And, it's not my favorite thing to say, even though I am a Trevor Story fan. Signing Trevor Story to the deal you signed him, 5 for 141 or 146 or whatever the final number came out to be, was your insurance policy of losing Xander.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. They're the same age. Trevor Story, I wouldn't say is a lot better defensively, but if the metrics back me up and say that he's a little bit better defensively, it wouldn't totally surprise me. Although I do think Xander's gotten better over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
If Xander doesn't have a Xander-like year, and if Xander ends up re-signing and opting in, then that's great. You have Xander at short, you have Trevor at second base, and that's a really good tandem up the middle. if you lose Xander and Xander ends up walking because you don't want to offer him the money that St. Louis is going to offer him, you slide Trevor Story over, and yeah, maybe you didn't get the boatload of prospects you could have gotten back if you traded for him, but you're not left with a AAA shortstop. You still have a big league all-star shortstop, and then second base is a whole lot easier to fill for a whole lot less money. So it was an insurance policy. Do I love the idea if that's how it plays out? No, not necessarily. But I do think Trevor Story is a legitimate. He's an all-star shortstop. So,
yeah,
I mean, people around here love Xander, and I love Xander, and don't get me wrong. But if you lose Xander and he walks, and your replacement is Trevor Story, people around here need to toughen up and say that's a pretty damn good replacement to Xander Bogaerts.
Absolutely.
Agree.
All right, we are going to head for home here and wrap up some other stories from the week. The Yankees retire Paul O'Neill's number 21. What year did the Yankees show us triple-digit numbers here? I mean, we're running out of numbers here.
Oh, talking about
I mean, I don't know.
Well, do you have his Yankee numbers right in front of you? I don't.
I do not. I mean, I know he was a huge part of that Yankees dynasty in the 90s. I get it. Bernie Williams, Derek Jeter, Tino Martinez, all those guys. I get it. But I don't know, man. It's so hard, I think, when I think of retired numbers. I think of these guys were the elite of the elite. Your Babe Ruth, your Lou Gehrig's, your, Ted Williams, your Jackie Robinson.
So Paul O'Neill played from 1985 until 1992 in Cincinnati.
Right?
He had one All-Star season in 1991, but other than that, he was fine. He was a fine player. He played the last 9 years of his career as a Yankee, and as a Yankee, he hit .303. He slugged .492. He had 185 home runs. He had 858 RBIs. He stole 80 bases. He had 304 doubles. And then he won all those World Series. That's a pretty good career as a Yankee in 9 years.
I guess.
And if he had those numbers for any other organization, I would say that that's a reasonable thing to retire. I think, and I'm agreeing with you in the sense that you've retired Yankee numbers of the greatest of the greats. You're talking the greatest players of all time that wore that uniform. Their numbers are up there. I wouldn't necessarily look at Paul O'Neill as the greatest right fielder of all time.
No.
But as a Yankee, those numbers are pretty more than respectable.
No, and I get that. I don't know. What are they gonna do? Legit. They're gonna start running out of numbers where it'd be sorry, can't wear it. Yeah. Sorry, can't wear it. Sorry, can't wear it.
Yep.
What are you gonna do? Go to negative numbers? Go to triple digits? I don't know. The reason numbers were put on the uniform to begin with, baseball was the reason there's numbers on uniforms. In all sports. The reason that there's numbers on jerseys was because Babe Ruth batted third, Lou Gehrig batted fourth. That was the number in the order that they hit. So if they switched the lineup around, guess what number Lou Gehrig wore that day? 3. Babe Ruth was hitting 4, he would wear number 4. Okay, that's where the baseball jersey numbers originated, and then people just started keeping their numbers throughout the years. But what are you going to do? The Yankees, I think I looked at it, they have the only numbers they have available left. There's no single digit numbers left.
No singles. Yeah, no singles.
They have, 14 through 18, and then I think 2 numbers in the 20s or something like that. I mean, that's just off the top of my head, but
I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, he was a big part of it. He won a bunch of World Series. He had a good Yankee career, a more than respectable Yankee career. for his 9 years there. If you told me before the year, like, hey, the Yankees are going to retire Paul O'Neill's number, I'd be like, I don't get it. But I get it. I think I get it.
I mean, Posada's retired. Pettit's probably retired too, right? I mean, they just why don't they
46?
Yeah, 46. Bernie Williams 51. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to be out of numbers soon. I mean,
I'm sure they have a plan.
99's already retired. I mean, no matter what
it's going to be.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just crazy. I mean, I get it. I mean, he had that whole Yankees dynasty in the 90s was disgusting. It was filthy. I get it. But I don't know. I think it kind of almost goes back to like the Hall of Fame talk, but not really, where like, I think the legends, like absolute legends, should be the ones retired. Like, it's like kind of almost loses its, what am I looking for? Allure? Is that the word?
Loses its luster.
Thank you. Something like that, where it's like, oh wow, like Babe Ruth has his number retired. Oh, but so does Paul O'Neill.
Yeah, I mean, like, I wonder if, the Yankees probably maybe in the past should have gone to like a Ring of Honor type of situation where it's like, hey, like we're going to let someone wear 27 or whatever, but we're going to put Paul O'Neill's name up there because Paul O'Neill did so much for the organization and we wouldn't have won those World Series without him. Like, I guess I'm with you in the sense of like, I'm certainly not against the New York Yankees honoring Paul O'Neill for what he did for them.
Right.
But, maybe let's save the retired jerseys for the Babe Ruths and the Lou Gehrigs and the Mickey Mantles.
Even like
those guys.
Or even the guys like the NBA just retired Bill Russell's jersey. And yes, on the court, unreal basketball player, but it was more what he did for, the black community. What he did civil rights off the field. Jackie Robinson, retire his number for the civil rights activist that he was off the field. Like that stuff, like absolutely. Like you don't deserve to wear that number because of what this guy went through and what Bill Russell went through. Like completely agree with that. But like just because you had like a decent career with us for 9 years, like, okay, your number's up next to those guys too. I just feel like it's not, I don't know. I wouldn't have done it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
All right, moving on from that. Okay, Brett Beatty, rookie from the Mets, gets up, homers in his debut. Beatty, sorry.
It's all right. I got you.
Beatty, homers in his debut for the Mets. He's an outfielder?
Third base.
So he's a righty-lefty, huh? Or is he switch? He hits lefty, right?
Yeah. He hits left. Oh, I thought you meant no. He's a righty-lefty.
Righty-lefty.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet. So that's kind of cool.
Young kid's got some pop. I think a little bit of swagger to him. I was surprised it took the Mets this long to call him up. But they were playing such good baseball really anyways. Like they didn't necessarily need kind of an injection in that, but I think he belongs. I think he certainly belongs.
I've said this before. I think it's absolutely insane, like the depth of these rookies that are all coming up. Like we talked about the Pirates about a month ago. Like all their young kids come up and we're just like raking. Like, it seems like the kids coming up out of AAA, like the moment's not too big for them anymore. It's not like it's like, oh my God, I'm at the show, which I'm sure they still have that moment. But as soon as they're in the batter's box, it's like it's all business. And like these guys don't look over their heads.
I think it helps though. Like these guys have played for years in these showcases and they travel all across the country and they play, you know what I mean? Like it's not like you and me, like we, played high school and then like we weren't good enough. But like, then you go from high school to like single A and then double A where there's no fans and there's no social media. There's like these guys are playing in showcases year in, year out at 13, 14, 15 years old. Like the moment almost can't be too big. I mean, it can, but you know what I mean? Like it's not, it's just another baseball game. Right. It's just another baseball game. It's impressive. I will say the one guy that I'm surprised the Mets haven't brought up yet, and it absolutely has to do with service time. Although I feel like it would be past that, right? But
Right.
Alvarez, I mean, they can't seem to get any offense out of that catching position. And this guy can't do any wrong at AAA. I mean, he is absolutely mashing night in and night out. And it's like, what are we doing here?
And it would have been different if they traded for Wilson Contreras at the deadline or Christian Vazquez at the deadline. Then fine, keep him down, bring him up next year, fresh start. But yeah, I mean, there's really no reason for him not to come up. I mean, he's got the protection in the lineup. Bring the kid up. He's gonna have protection.
He's got plenty of protection.
That's what I'm saying.
Wonder if it's I wonder too if it's when does the September call-ups open?
So like a week, probably.
Yeah, so I'm wondering. You get to the beginning of August, the second week in August, and you're thinking, we're close enough to that, right? Like, yes, we need help at catcher. We know we need help at catcher, but it's not worth trading away a couple of prospects for Wilson Contreras. It's not worth maybe sending down somebody that's, a positive in the locker room to bring him up. We'll just wait for the expanded rosters and we'll bring them up. Maybe that's kind of their thinking. And as soon as they can, they bring him up with the expanded roster. And, he really starts to – because I think the thing that I would like to see is I would like to see that offensive pop in this lineup in October. I think that's going to be important.
Yeah.
But I would also like this kid to get some major league experience before he gets thrown into a postseason series in October.
Yeah. But they're not. But they're not in a rut. They're in good position in the NL East right now. They're sitting pretty comfortable. They can wait that extra week for him to come up. He's gonna get a month of at bats at the major league level,
which is my hope. So, that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah,
and if you give him a month's worth of ABs, and I think everything settles down going into October. The problem that you can't have, or at least I don't think you can have. But what the hell do I know? But it's like this kid's 8th at bat can't be game 2 of the NLDS.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, we got to get
can't be Charlie McAvoy coming into the first round of the playoffs from the draft being like, hey, kid, you ready? Like,
right.
Yeah, I got you. Dodger sideline reporter goes down the Milwaukee Brewers slide in the outfield, their home run celebration slide. He goes down the slide, breaks a rib, cracks 3 ribs, and breaks his wrist. God,
it was hilarious.
It was so funny. It's terrible the guy got hurt, but like the dude was flying down that slide. And
he wasn't. And at no point did you watch the video with the sound on.
Yeah.
He never thought he would be going that fast. And he was legit freaking out. He was like, oh my God. He was losing his mind going down the slide.
Yeah, dude. And then so after this would happen, pregame, and then he goes to the hospital. Yeah. And then Nomar
I don't think my guess is he probably just did the x-rays there. Like, don't you think they probably have a machine?
Yeah. But goes to the clubhouse, whatever, and Nomar does the interview with him later, and they're like, how was the slide? And he goes, that was great. And he's got like a full-on arm
full cast. On. Full cast. For those of you that haven't seen it, I would highly recommend go look up that video. And even knowing the outcome, you feel bad, but it was still hilarious. It was absolutely just a grown man going down a slide, well out of control, and then just slams right into the thing at the end. Hilarious.
Oh my God, out of control. And then just the interview with Nomar and the other guy after. Just goodness gracious. Okay, a couple things before we end here. The Atlanta Braves signed Michael Harris, the second or the third or the fourth, whatever he is. They extended him through the 2028 season. So they have now extended Riley, Acuna, Olsen, Harris, anybody you can think of, they've extended. Except for Ozuna, I think they posted his bail again for the 3rd time.
I didn't even. Yeah, we got to end the show on a good note, so I don't even want to talk about Ozuna.
We're not even going to go down that road, but I mean, are the Braves that confident in these guys and that they're going to lock them up till the 2028 season? Or yes, or I know you mentioned a little bit before the show that are they going to end up like the Nationals where they're going to have to almost bankrupt themselves because they've tied up all this money for so long. How do you think
No,
this
I
end
don't.
is?
I don't think they're going to end up like like bankrupt like the Nationals. Like I, the Braves, the people that own the Braves, the corporation, the people, the CEOs, the people behind that own the Braves are smart business people. They're not going to bankrupt the Braves.
Right.
I do think well, I should say I'm curious to look at the contracts and see how much deferred money is in those extensions. Like in baseball, I mean, you can defer money out. I mean, we see that in contracts every year with all kinds of different teams. So it's like you can look at a contract and say, "Oh, this is $100 million contract," which, like, I guess on paper it is $100 million contract, but we're really only going to pay the guy $20 million out of that 100. We're just kicking the other 80 down the road, and eventually that bill is going to come due. But is that bill going to come due all at the same time, and they're going to owe all these guys? And probably not. Like, I don't think that's, what do I know about business, but I don't think that's a good business decision.
Right.
And they're probably not going to do that. I think it was likely a way that they do think that they're in this window. They won it last year, obviously. They're certainly in the mix this year. I think they know they're in this window where they have, a handful of years to see if they can get more than one under their belt. And that was probably their solution to locking as many of these guys up for that run. Whether or not we do an extension on top of an extension, which, maybe pays out a little bit more of that money on the front end, or however they do it, I don't know. I certainly am not, I wouldn't consider myself an expert on the cap like that. Or I should say on the contracts like that. But I'd be surprised if they ended up like Washington, in which, they got to sell the team and it all comes due at the same time. Like I would be surprised. I think they're much better run than
Savvy.
that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, but we'll see. I'm interested to watch the team. I mean, I love that lineup. Austin Riley, man, so good.
Unreal.
This guy, big home runs, clutch home runs, absolute moonball home runs too. Like, I don't think he's hit a cheap one all year.
The guy is a monster.
They're all just
like Austin. I'm surprised he can even get his hands together to like hold the bat. Like he's
just a fun guy to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm certainly excited to watch them for the next few years. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Yeah. All right, and then to end the show here, it's like baseball, but not baseball. Sean and I talked about it a little bit before. Banana Ball. So the Savannah Bananas premiered on ESPN2, and they're going to be on ESPN Plus with the documentary. There was actually a game last Friday where actually Bill Spaceman Lee actually collapsed in the bullpen, which was crazy, but he seemed to be okay. But for those of you that don't know what Banana Ball is, it's baseball, but not baseball. It's a fast-paced. They made 9 rule changes. So here are some of the rule changes that they thought baseball was boring in, so they kind of adapted the rules and changed them a little bit. So there's no mound visits. Batters cannot step out. There's no new inning after an hour and 50 minutes. So you cannot start a new inning after an hour and 50 minutes. So 2-hour time limit. That's it. Game over. No matter where you are in the game. The way they keep score is like match play in golf. So like if Sean is on the visiting team, I'm on the home team. If he goes and scores a run, but then I score 2 in the bottom, as soon as I score my second run, the inning's over. I get a point. We move on to the next inning. So first team to 5 wins. This is where the rules of the game start getting tweaked a little bit. Fans can catch foul balls for an out, which is interesting to me. I think it keeps the fans engaged a little bit. But how do we feel about that?
We don't feel good about it, Nick. We don't
Sean
feel
doesn't
good about
like
it.
Sean,
it's so dumb.
okay.
Listen, I'm with you in the sense of like keeping the fans engaged and all that, which it does, right? But here's the problem. Isn't this like a summer league for college?
So they're
players?
two separate teams. So they have 2 teams. They have the CBL team, which is the SCBL team, the Summer College Baseball League team. They travel. They don't do
Gotcha.
any of this stuff. They play legit
Right.
baseball. And then this
Gotcha.
team is
Okay.
like the Harlem Globetrotters, where they do all this gimmicky stuff. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they all,
Okay.
yeah.
So I don't love that part. I mean, you're taught, you're groomed when you're playing baseball. I mean, falling off tough pitches and all this. And imagine grinding in an at bat. Now I know it's like this gimmick league, so like it's not supposed to matter, but like obviously your competition is going to come out. I mean, you're a legitimate baseball player. That's why you can play at this level,
Right.
because you're a competitive person that is a really good. Like imagine having a tough at bat and then like you foul off a tough pitch, but it gets caught by some drunk guy in the third row, and now you're out. You have to wait till it's your turn to bat again. That's nonsense. I'd be furious.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's just, yeah, it's
And I guess the rules going in and you signed up to play, and like I guess that's so whatever, like fine, but I don't know. Like it's hard for me to like watch a full game of that because it's
right. It's so out there.
I mean,
Right.
imagine like how lucky you are as a pitcher. Like you get 3 of those in one inning. You don't even have to make your players. You just get
Right.
3 lucky pop-ups.
Right. Yeah. No, I get it.
Okay.
Batters can steal first on any count. So if there's like a wild pitch and it goes to the backstop, batters can just drop their bat and run, which I saw a couple times Friday, which it's kind of neat. It's kind of cool. This one is really cool to me too. I mean, it's also gimmicky, but there's no such thing as walks. So on ball 4, the batter drops the bat and they sprint. And the defense has to put the ball in play. And the only way the defense can put the ball in play is if they throw the ball all the way around the horn and everybody on the field has to touch it. So what ends up happening is usually the catcher throws a BB to the shortstop, and all the players kind of convene around second base, and they do like a quick like hot potato. And then as soon as every player has touched the ball, now the ball is live, and the runner can sprint as far as they can until that ball's live. So sometimes you just get a single off a walk. Sometimes you can get a double. It was pretty interesting. I thought that was kind of cool. But again, it's gimmicky. What was the other one? Oh, bunting results in an ejection. So it's not even a strike or an out. It's just you hit the showers, gone. And then the last one is extra innings. You have just the batter, just the pitcher. And the hitter has to put the ball in play and run all the way around the bases before the pitcher gets him out. So it's literally just pitcher, batter. Pitcher strikes out the hitter, game's over, fielding team wins. If the hitter hits it to the wall, he gets an inside the park home run, game over, the hitting team wins. So there's no rebuttal. So either the fielding team wins or the hitting team wins. So thought that one was kind of interesting too. I have not seen that personally. But yeah, I mean, it was gimmicky enough for my wife to sit through it and watch it. So like, I mean, it kept her engaged because I think it was more like she was more intrigued on like how the rules kind of worked and not necessarily like the product on the game. She's like, well, what are they doing now? And I was like, well, they have to do this because it's the new rule. And she's like, oh, okay. Like, it's kind of fun to watch. But, which is true. Like, it's fun to watch, I think, the first couple times. It'll be interesting to see when we've seen this for like 3 or 4 years. Like, does it catch on? Does the league expand? Does it, just...
Yeah, I mean, it's
kicking a dead horse. Like, what?
It's not baseball.
Well,
like, as long as you recognize...
Right.
Like, as long as... I think when I started reading and listening to all the rules, I'm like, that's terrible. That's off. But it's not baseball.
Right.
Right? Like if I can't turn on like a soccer game and then be mad that it's not hockey. Like it's not it's a different sport entirely.
Mm-hmm.
So like it obviously has the baseball elements to it, which I think would in theory and ideally bring kind of the baseball people to it, but here are the different fun kind of quirky little rules. And then it does its other job of bringing people that think baseball is way too boring and they could never sit through a baseball game because it's 4 hours long and they don't have 4 hours. Well, we fixed that for you. 2 hours max. So I think there's some of that element to it, obviously. We'll see. I don't know if I could ever fully sit down and watch like a season's worth of all those games.
Right.
I just think I'm just too ingrained in like baseball itself. But
Yeah. Same.
just for maybe a change of pace every now. I mean, baseball's a long season. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I mean, baseball's a long season. If you can maybe tune in and break it up a little bit, I will say, as slow as I've been to come around on this like new game, I'm quite intrigued by this ESPN Plus documentary though. So I'm gonna have to tune in.
Yeah, I am too. I mean,
And
it's cool. So I think Eric Burns was a former Major League Baseball player. He's the manager of the Savannah, or third base coach. I'm pretty sure he manages them. Johnny Gomes plays for them. Bill Spaceman Lee pitches for them a little bit. So I mean, there's some cool things, but yeah, you can't, like you said, you can't go into it being like, this is baseball. Like, you're not going to see the
Right.
Savannah Bananas in third place in the NL Central, although they probably could compete for a third place spot in the NL Central. But you're just not going to see that. It's not baseball. The college league team is completely different than this other team, which is the gimmicky team. But it was fun. Like, I enjoyed watching it. It was on for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I watched it through and through. It was interesting. I thought it was, like you said, kind of a cool change of pace. But I mean, it's not baseball for sure. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before we head out?
I think I'm good.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for commenting and all the people that came in and stopped by and added. That was a lot of fun tonight. Just like, subscribe, share our podcast. You can share it from YouTube. You can share it from our Facebook page. But subscribe button on YouTube, and then just comment all the content we put out on Facebook every week. We put tons of stories and stuff out like that. So just keep commenting. The interactions have been great. But we should get Harrison back next week. I might be tuning in live from Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, so stay tuned. I have a baseball trip coming up. I'm seeing the Reds and the Guardians, getting those two stadiums checked off my bucket list. So I might be popping in next week. It might be just Harrison and Sean. We'll see if I can get in, but it would be pretty cool if I could join you guys live from the ballpark, and that'd be awesome. But
yeah, that'd be sweet.
The sad news is Joey Votto is out, and I'm just like heartbroken. That's the one guy I really wanted to see, but they are playing the Cardinals, so I'll get to see Pujols. I'll get to see Goldschmidt. I'll get to see all those guys. So I'm pumped. I can't wait. And then the Mariners are playing the Guardians. So,
good. You'll see a couple good games there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Mariners and Guardians have something to play for. So that's going to be a good game. But okay, as I was wrapping up the show, I went into another 5-minute monologue. So we will see you guys next Tuesday, hopefully from Cincinnati.
See you, boys.